It's recording. Okay, so it is March 20th, 2019, class 621, 651, and Linnea is going to share screen and show their PowerPoint. If you remember right, we're going to, like in Linnea's PowerPoint chapter, memorization and links with memorization and standard 5, which is classroom behavior, climate, the tone of the school. A lot of this boils down to classroom management and setting the tone where good education, where good learning can take place. So, Linnea, you have the floor. Do you have the technology going?
Yes. Can you guys
drive
see
on.
screen?
I see your screen. Tiffany, do you see the screen? Okay, all right. So
Okay.
I think I'm going to push this down here like this. There we go. Okay, drive on, Linnea.
Hello and welcome to chapter 8. Standard 5 is very important in the classroom. It gives opportunities for students to address issues, take risks, and
Was that was not loud enough?
No. Okay,
Okay.
let me hit pause recording.
chapter 8 memorization.
Can you hear this one or no?
Standard 5.
A little bit louder, yes.
Okay. I'll go to the next. This is just the introduction one.
Most of you probably remember to the key concepts of key memorization. These are things that most of us use even currently as adults. So there are 4 phases. Material. There are several techniques that you use here. Underlining. The second one is making the material familiar. You can develop some keywords. Ourselves. The third is using techniques of association and exaggeration. The images used here to help students hadn't thought of, or something that maybe we have, or and then the 4th phase is practicing. Practicing to recall the information and your really important phase. The first 3, but unless you do the 4th one, you have to stick. We have obviously talked about the application of memorization, or I'll skip over that, but it helps you organize information. More organized, easier it is to retain information. Link the information, like like Maryland, picture of marriage, or visual representation. And also, it's ridiculous. There's lots of different applications, but the advantages to using this model that students and teachers and the team, a lot of students are actively engaged. Memorization are excellent devices for recalling facts, like the first standard. Like the PEMDAS, which there's also exercise science. If you're just trying to remember for a test, your exercise might be under tips for teaching this. is emphasizing the content and context and purpose of the good chunk that we remember. Pictures, you use actual things. So there's different ways for sensoriness of how it's work. And like we talked about before, some of the recommended strategies that people use are phonics, linking, association.
Okay, through the rest of it, it's going to be me talking, so hopefully it's a lot better. You can hear better. So some of the examples that we have for elementary are just when teachers have the students recite what the classroom expectations are. I think that it helps them practice talking about it, and then it also helps lock it into memory for them. So like even I related to small group, but I related to small group with secondary as well. So when we start small group, we're having them say what the expectations of small group is, or just even in the classroom so they understand it, and just to further their locking it into their memory if they need to. And then for the next example I have is for secondary, and some of the schools, like the school that I'm in, has like positive reinforcement. At Truman High School, they use like character ed, which has helped to boost the students doing positive things, and then displaying their behaviors in the classroom. So it's sort of like an incentive, and then if you're nominated, you can win like the student award, and they also do it for staff as well. And then the relationship between the model and standard 5. So for the quality indicator 1, the counselor could invite the students to talk about to show how they're paying attention in the class, to show what they're doing to be courteous and what they're doing to participate in a particular lesson. It's particularly if that class is having behavior issues. And then the second quality indicator, managing time, space, transition, activities. And this is something that, like I talked about before, this reinforced through group counseling. So when we have small group, we're helping the students transition into different phases of it, and just so we can keep on task, because we don't have all the time in the world to be able to have small group with the students, just to be like, hey, let's move on. So we're using those cutting off skills, or we're using those transition skills to get the students moving, and then also using that just to manage the behavior, and so we can make sure that we're staying on time for things. That's all we have for this. Do you guys have any questions?
I'm returning the recording going on, and we're in a general conversation about classroom management right now. And I would say that even really strong teachers have their moments struggling with classroom management. And it heavily depends on knowing your kids as much as you can know them. Okay, as we talk our way through this, as a teacher and as a principal, the kids knew me. I could be in a cafeteria all by myself with 300 kids, and I wasn't particularly. Other than being very busy, I wasn't particularly daunted by doing that if the other teachers had to step out, because I knew the kids, they knew me, and they knew that, they knew what would, that I tried not to be overbearing, but there are times that I'd land like a ton of bricks. And so, because the kids knew me by then. If you plop me into the cafeteria duty all by myself at Truman High School, they would eat me alive, because they don't know me. They wouldn't know me from Adam, and they would not comply to anything I say. Okay? So as we work our way through this, that's a big concept that that teachers, a lot of times we bluff a lot until we know the kids and know, on the scale of kids, who is just mischievous, talkative, ornery, and who's just downright mean and maybe dangerous. And you don't know that until you get into your school year. There were kids that I worked with that were legitimately dangerous. And in my almost 20 years as being a principal, I can think of only twice that I ever thought a kid was really going to take me. And that's an
kid is going to take me.
Yeah. It's not a good feeling. And when you look at the kids, and both times those kids were under the influence. When you look in their eye and you realize that this could get really bad really quick. And so you decide whether you're going to be square-backed and gruff, or you're going to step sideways and deflate a little bit, and you just decide how you want to deal with that situation. That stuff does not happen really very often, but it does, and it's part of being an educator. So, okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that as we move forward, what I'll probably do then, as we create a threaded discussion from this evening, where I'm going to encourage everybody to reflect on these videos and look for tidbits that they can apply. We always look for that, the word application. But I'm also going to ask for, okay, share with us a short vignette. I don't know, however you define vignette, maybe 4 or 5 sentences of a situation that you would like group feedback on as to how we can help you with classroom management. Instead of going into where I was thinking with use of data. Are you with me? Okay. All right. So,
yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, good. Okay. All right, so we're still recording. I'm going to pause real quick. Okay, we're going to resume recording with Tiffany, Courtney, and Jacob talking about Standard 5 and the scientific inquiry model. Go.
All right, so you just read our title for us, so we'll just go to slide 2. So background information, obviously with the scientific inquiry model, it's a great model for science, but it also can be really great for any curriculum. But what's great about this model is that it gives you that hands-on experience that a lot of kiddos need and that a lot of kiddos crave, instead of just being lectured at over and over and over again. And it uses cross-cutting concepts for problem solving. And more attention to detail should be given so that they can increase organization and power over the material. And it's just it's a good model for any curriculum. And then the different phases of the scientific inquiry model, there's 4 phases. First one is pose an area of an investigation. 2, students structure the problem. 3, students identify the problem in the investigation. 4, students speculate on ways to clear up the difficulties. So.
And as far as the model relationship with the standard, Standard 5, positive classroom environment, the teacher uses and understands the individual group motivation and behavior to create engagement and learning positive social interaction and self-motivation. And you guys can kind of read through the slide. I'm not going to read every word to you because we will be sharing these. The model has a clear structure and transition points. Therefore, it is important for students to know and understand the transition points. The model is very handy, very hands-on, which keeps the students engaged at any grade level and working together, which also benefits the classroom and school environment and has them working more as a team as opposed to alone. We'll go on to slide 5. Standard relationship with quality 1 indicator. Classroom management techniques. It's been a topic tonight. Counselors make a concrete effort to communicate known and reputable classroom management techniques with peers in order to minimize misbehavior throughout the class environment. Use of the scientific inquiry model may rely heavily on student interaction. With that being said, it is important for counselors and educators to know the potential conflict situations arise that take away from the learning process. This is why it is not only important that the counselors share resources that they find useful, that they must act as resources themselves, constantly craving knowledge to be applied to improve the school environment and the classroom environment.
Thank you, Tiff. So kind of moving forward to the next quality indicator, which is management of time, space, transition, and activities. And if you were paying attention, Courtney kind of hit on the importance, as well as Tiffany, the importance of transitions. These transitions can be very ambiguous if not given direct attention, which provides a negative impact on the learning environment, because not only are schools and us as school counselors supposed to act as places of safety for students, but also structure. Structure is going to be extremely important for these students. So with this scientific inquiry model in its particular phases, it provides us a base for interpreting the appropriate time and place to move forward in a lesson. And kind of similar to the previous standard, it's important of teachers and educators alike to communicate and share these effective strategies in regards to time management and transitions in space. Again, with the ultimate goal of promoting student engagement and productivity. Moving on to slide 7, again, the quality indicator 3, classroom, school, and community culture. And Dr. Gordon was kind of hitting on this before we started the whole presentations, but the culture of the classroom is pretty much indicative of the tone the teacher or educator sets within that environment. And when Dr. Gordon was talking about his experience with students, I couldn't help but think of this one thing, and it comes down to building healthy relationships with students. The relationships that these students have with their superiors, their peers, and the environment greatly determines the mindset and level of inclusion that students feel within that environment. And also getting students to consciously evaluate their learning environment promotes another level of engagement and inclusion. And then kind of moving forward, finally, how this particular standard aligns with the classroom. So in elementary school, we kind of broke it down into 3 particular sections. Who am I? So introducing students to ideas of self-concept. Middle school, why am I here? So, lessons on motivation and things like that. And then secondary and high school, what's next? Diving deeper into that career exploration and productive citizenship. So in each of these lessons, productivity and pro-social behavior is emphasized, which is the overall standard that we're talking about this week. Also with that, another highlight of the standard is that it emphasizes a cultural analysis, specifically related to the classroom, but also related to their own environments, meaning that by putting students in a situation to where they have to analyze, the things going on around them within a structured school setting, it promotes that behavior outside of the school setting too. So being able to analyze environments that are unsafe, or being able to recognize things that would make an environment unsafe. When you practice those things in the classroom, they're definitely going to be able to transfer over to other areas of their life. So just kind of breaking down each of these, kind of wrapping up on self-concept, how does the individual student and their particular interests, behaviors, and interactions affect the classroom environment? So that's peers, teachers in the class, etc. Moving on to motivation, the goal for students is to identify their intrinsic ambitions and be able to establish a relationship with these and their coursework. And then again, kind of building on towards that as a transition from middle school to high school. With that more comprehensive understanding of their identity and their interests, there's still much to be investigated in regards to new obligations as they transition into adulthood. So again, a wide utility net, so to speak, is in regards to how this standard applies to the particular teaching model.
Okay. Thank you, Jacob. So your group is done at the moment, okay? There. We are still recording, and probably what I will do then, working off your feedback, and those of you that are not here tonight or watching this recording, we decided moving forward that our theme moving forward and going into the last evening is we're going to stay with Standard 5 classroom management. And I was making notes here that probably what we'll do our presentations moving forward, maybe surrounding the groups you have now, but perhaps creating a vignette or a real life scenario that you've seen and talking among the 2 or 3 of you as to what strategies you did, could have done, should have done, and would want feedback upon. The rest of us can give you feedback on. So as a group, I'm probably, how my mind is going, probably going to ask you to decide on whether to call it a situation, scenario, or vignette, and to put that in a PowerPoint. And I think I kind of like the idea of what you did do, should have done, could have done, might have done. One more, those kinds of real professional questions. Okay, something along those lines, and but also, they're also asking your classmates to provide a couple comments on the videos on this video thing we got going on tonight. I need to think that through a little bit. Okay, questions about that before I stop recording? Okay, Tara, you have the floor. Go.
Okay, so Sarah and I did our role-playing model in links with Standard 5. She attempted to do some video recordings of herself, so we'll see if those work tonight. If they don't, or if you can't hear them very well, I'll make sure to email this to everyone. And then also she has everything typed up too, so you can always read it. So just a reminder of what role-playing is. It's perfect actually for most of these standards because it is a very, very highly engaging model. So I guess our job was pretty easy. So really it's just a way of engaging students through acting out situations in order to problem solve, really. And as counselors, it's really important to have them act those things out because then they can practice and generalize those things to real life situations when they actually happen. So just a reminder of some of the phases. It's really important to provide the script to students so you're not spending half of your class trying to figure out, what the situation might be. So come in prepared with that. Make sure you're preparing the observers with their expectations and what you want them to identify to discuss after, which does increase engagement as well, because then they're just not sitting there watching. They have a task to do while the other people are acting. Of course, they act it out, have some discussion. The really important part here is kind of like I relate it to our processing time in counseling. So after the first acting out and discussion, you go back and reenact after maybe some more ideas were presented. So they can have an opportunity to reenact some more solutions. And then they really have a good toolbox to take out into the real world, I guess you could say. So Sarah is going to talk about how it's related to Standard 5 in these videos. We'll see if they work.
Am I the only one that can't hear anything?
Can't hear.
She's very animated though.
Yeah, can you tell what she's saying from there? So basically she's just saying it is, like I kind of said earlier, it kind of tells itself. It's one of the best ways probably to engage students. So in terms of quality indicator 2, the management of time, space, and transitions, with role playing, you do have to have a good space to do it. You can't really do it in a crowded classroom. That's going to make it really difficult. So that's something to be cognizant of, because otherwise engagement can definitely float off. If you're kind of a mess and trying to find a spot to act things out, it can definitely kind of lose engagement of the students. So she says here that it's a concrete time frame, so they know when their guidance classes, they know when they're going to be acting things out. You'll have time as the teacher to set up the classroom how you want it. It's a unique model because it has rigid transition phases, which I kind of talked you through and kind of repeating the acting out and the discussing and things like that. and importantly here is that role-playing teaches self-direction and control. So while they're focused on those things, that's really engaging them. Even though they might not know it or see it that way, you as a teacher can take pride in the fact that when they're directing themselves through the lesson, that just shows high engagement in itself. And then last thing is some examples in the classroom. So for large group in the high school, she talked about maybe doing mock interviews, which is a great idea. Practicing interview scenarios, or maybe even just peer situations. You know, middle school, I think for my practicum log, just about all my hours are from 8th grade drama and individual counseling and, you know, all of the above. So trying to role play those situations so the kids then know how to handle that would be good for high school and middle school. Which she kind of goes down to mention using I and you statements and doing that through the role play. Elementary, it would be good to maybe do that for friendships, to show them what good friends say and do to each other, and what they don't do to each other as well. Those are just a few examples. And that is all we had.
Okay, I will pause recording.